a pitch. Intercepted by BigHoppa, who may go all the way again. He's going to be cut off near the sideline. He was tripped by a man standing in front of the Winnipeg bench.
First down, Edmonton with the football. McManus going up top for Eddie Brown. What a catch! Eddie Brown! Touchdown, Edmonton! Penalty markers down all over the field.
Illegal substitution, too many men on the field, Saskatchewan.
From 33 yards out to win the 97th Grey Cup. Ball down, ball through.
Hey. This is football, eh? The CFL podcast. It's your boy, it's BigHoppa, Bryce Hopwood, Anthony, the Milkman, Ventura. What is up, everybody? It is Grey Cup week. It's our first Grey Cup week, the 110th overall in Hamilton this week. We couldn't be more excited. I personally am pretty bummed that I'm not in Hamilton. Yeah, obviously responsibilities in the States, that kind of stuff. I can't just plan that out 6 weeks ahead or so. That we've been doing this now. But and how are you feeling? Because I have a lot of FOMO right now.
I'm pumped. I'm pumped to get to the Grey Cup week. Obviously, we were texting about it this week, how much we love like playoffs and everything like that. Like it's such a blast. Like the games are so fun because they mean so much. Obviously, the Grey Cup is the most important. So I'm just excited just to kind of to see the atmosphere there. Obviously, can't see it in person, but like hear the atmosphere through the TV, hear how awesome it is. I am extremely jealous that I won't be there. I won't get to see Fall Out Boy play or the Blue Bombers, and yeah, I'm a little pissed off. I'm missing those, but it is what it is. I'm excited for everybody who's going.
Yeah, it looks like it's a great time. Already a lot of fan festivities and that kind of stuff is already going on. But let's talk a little bit about the game itself. Last week, East-West finals. And I'll tell you what, brother. We talked about Vernon Adams might be being maybe the best quarterback in the league. And it turns out, and obviously Chad Kelly had the Argos 16-2 with some really great play this year, and both of them really struggled. Kelly I believe it ended up with 8 turnovers, and watching, I guess we can start with that game. Watching that back after the fact too. In the game, sometimes you get lost the TV stuff. You can't always tell, like who's at fault, but Kelly, he had the strip sack from behind, so that can be a tough one when you're looking downfield. But other than that, all the interceptions were not bad, not only bad, but really, really bad.
Yeah, I picked Montreal to win, but if you'd have given me a million guesses onto how they would win, Chad Kelly having 8 turnovers would not have been in my first million guesses. There's no way that anybody saw that coming, including me, including anybody. I'm just truly shocked. Yeah, Chad Kelly, he's got to be better, man. It's not like he hasn't performed in big games before. He had big games in college that he performed. I don't understand what happened to him. Montreal's defense is good, but
they're awesome.
Come on, that good?
Yeah, we talked about it last week, right? That Montreal's defense was gonna have to be, play a bigger role than the offense would probably need to, and they did that. They just absolutely flew around, and I think that's what's gonna make this Grey Cup awesome, because I think, overall, Montreal may be probably the best defense in the league at this point, especially after last week's performance. And then going into this offense, I think Winnipeg is probably the best offense, at least in those last 6 weeks. I keep saying it. But that being said, yeah, I felt bad for Chad, but I don't know if you saw his Instagram. I'm all over social media, whatever. You probably saw it anywhere you get your CFL stuff, but his Instagram post about being back next year, which I thought was mighty interesting, because being so new to the sport, the dynamic of the American player and that kind of stuff is not something I totally understand. From what I gather, I would imagine Chad might have some opportunity in the NFL. That being said, he said, he's likely coming back next year for the Argos. So I'll be interested to see what happens there with Chad Kelly's football in general career.
Yeah, I agree. It does seem like, again, I haven't been here long, but if you look up like stat pages, it seems like the quarterbacks move around more often than anybody. I mean, we talked, or I said something that both quarterbacks that are playing in the Grey Cup on Sunday are former Rough Riders, which hurts me to the soul. But the fact that they move around so much, it seems to be more of a CFL thing than an NFL thing. And I'm just the fact that somebody like that comes back like this far in advance is saying he's coming back when there is so much quarterback movement in the league, it seems, is interesting as well. Even disbarring the NFL opportunities that he could and should have.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously the numbers speak for themselves, and he was a good enough player to have those NFL opportunities at one point also. But yeah, I'm excited because I think it seems like Americans really enjoy the CFL, especially the ones who are a little bit more successful, and that's probably the half of it. But I'm excited to see Chad. I like the staying power. I'm glad to see that he has some love for the league the way that ours has grown immensely. On this podcast alone, you guys have heard it week to week. Those of you who are awesome week to week listeners. So yeah, I mean, the Argos really did it to themselves. Montreal, our close personal friend Caleb Evans headed to the Grey Cup. I'm excited for him, but that poses a conundrum because in the other final, the West final, Winnipeg, absolutely, I mean, I wouldn't call it full domination, but that being said, I mean, it was essentially full domination from Winnipeg. The offense is great. The defense is just as good. This is going to be an awesome Grey Cup, and it's money versus friendship for me. I mean, I have Winnipeg to win the Grey Cup in the money aspect, and like I said, our close personal friend Caleb Evans for Montreal is on the other sideline.
Yeah, the game on Sunday for Winnipeg was interesting to me. I actually felt like their offense wasn't that good. I mean, Collaros didn't even hit 200 yards, didn't throw a touchdown. They only scored 24, but at the same time, it felt like they were in control from the opening minute. And like, I never was in that game, and I was like, "Oh, BC, they got a chance here." They were just. It felt like they were dead the entire game. I think Winnipeg went up like 14-0 early, and it was just dead in the water. Like they felt like they had no chance.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we called Vernon Adams probably the best quarterback in the league after a performance that's probably deserving of such, fodder and that kind of stuff, which is not to take away from his semifinal performance. But then the Winnipeg defense just, I mean, ate him up, really is what happened. They I think the stat was like, middle of the road for BC, about like fourth fewest or third fewest sacks had been given up during the regular season. But Winnipeg, I think, ended up with somewhere around like 6 or 7 sacks on the game. I mean, just incredible, absolutely flying around. So I think this Grey Cup is going to be a battle of defenses.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to get into the preview early. Personally, again, I picked Montreal last week. I really like Montreal. I do not feel great about their chances this week. I am not feeling great, to be quite honest. Yeah.
What scares you? What scares you most I'm loyal to a fault. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna choose to root for the Owls because of Caleb, giving us his time, especially. But what as an Owls supporter for this Grey Cup are you most nervous about facing Winnipeg?
Yeah, so I'm an Owls guy as well. I hope they win. I really do. I know journalists, we're not supposed to pick side, but I want the Owls to win. But when I look at it, the Owls are up. They got that kick return from James Letcher at the end of the game to make it 21. They were
He's essentially so awesome, by the way.
They were up 14 and they forced 9 turnovers. They forced Chad Kelly, the MVP finalist, to have 8 turnovers, and they were only up by 14. That doesn't make me feel good. Sure, at one point, it's good that you forced 8 turnovers, but 8 turnovers is not sustainable. I guess I hope I'm not going to knock on wood. There's
And
no
2 of
way
them were pick sixes too.
There's no way they can force 8 turnovers again. I would truly, if they get Caleros into 8 turnovers, I mean, I'll drive up to Montreal and shake everybody on the defense's hand because that would be absurd. That would be absurd. There's no way that could happen again. So I'm just, again, I hope the Owls pull it off. I'm finding it tough to see a path.
That's fair. I mean, and so then, yeah, Montreal, all their touchdowns were off of special teams, correct? Or defense, the 2 pick sixes, and then Letcher's return, right?
That was 21. They scored 38.
Oh yeah, 38.
Yeah,
I'm a psycho.
Fajardo threw a touchdown.
Yeah, I'm a psycho. Oh yeah, he had the spin. I think that was Phil,
sick.
Which is crazy because I think they might have the top 3 receivers, like your top 3 receivers for all of the 9 teams. I think they probably have the best between Philpott, your boy Mac, and then Sneed.
Yeah.
I think that's like an insane 3. I feel
they got dogs. They got dogs out there. Fajardo's been good. They can bring Caleb Evans in when they run. He's obviously awesome at that. We talked about the record. They have a team. It felt like they could have done more against Toronto, and they didn't, despite all the turnovers.
That's fair. I think that's fair. Letcher, by the way, he's awesome. I love his return ability. I mean, that was his like second since we've been watching. He returned like the missed field goal. I think that first week we started watching was insane. I don't know. That guy just is incredible. I don't understand how you see the field the way he sees the field, but yeah, let's talk about this. I guess we're kind of doing the preview already, but for me, for Montreal, I mean, you need the big guys to step up. I think Lemon, a little Lemonator, he's a 2-time Grey Cup champ. So I think if you're supporting the Owls, one of the things us dumb Americans do, especially in the NFL, is some of the intangible stuff you don't see. The way he's a leader in the locker room. He's been here before. I think he's going to have that. I'm assuming, between him and Beverett, especially Beverett, I think ended up being the leading tackler on the year. I think that you'll see those 2 guys have these guys in a spot where they're not distracted by the shiny lights this week. They get the extra day of rest, going from Saturday into Sunday game week. So I'm excited in that aspect. Like you said, Caleros, I don't foresee him turning the ball over too much, because he's been so good. But I'm it's gonna probably hang on that Montreal defense, because if you can limit that offense that like you said didn't totally play that great last week, that's gonna be where they're gonna be able to win the ball game. They just have to get a couple. They're just gonna have to be able to protect Fajardo and get that run game going a little bit with Stanback, but it feels so good, by the way, just as an aside, being able to like name some of these guys off the dome and know that I'm saying the right team, like Stanback for Montreal. I feel great about that right now.
It's pretty cool. That's how we're into this.
Yeah, we're here. We're here to stay. We love the CFL, by the way.
That's for sure.
I think just to finish up there, I think obviously we're both on the Owls. I think the spread is 7.5 for Winnipeg as the favorite is what I saw. So look, the pocketbook is smiling for me right now, but in my heart, I need a dub for the sake of Caleb Evans. So go Owls this week. But also during Grey Cup week, we had the yesterday. Well, this is Wednesday morning, so Tuesday was the commissioner did his little Q&A, State of the Union kind of thing. And what did you have from that?
Yeah, so there were a couple things I wanted to mention that I pulled from some news articles, some clips, stuff like that. And then there were a couple other things that people in the news articles were mentioning. Some stuff that his name's Randy Ambrosi.
Mhm.
I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. But he mentioned some stats that were pretty cool. 60% of games this year were decided in the final 2 minutes. That seems insane.
Oh,
That's
wow.
that's really fun. Yeah, I guess that's up from 2 years ago. So a lot of the numbers were comparing to 21 because I guess they said they don't have the numbers from 22 for some reason. I don't know. Um,
I don't know if
because they were
that.
switching over to Genius.
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
assume that's where the thing came in, and that seemed like our hopeful friend here, Dave Naylor. It seemed like that was the first question,
yeah,
was the asking about the stats.
yeah. So yeah, he did mention that. He said they're hopeful the website will be up and better and ready to go by 2024. Which I think we're all hoping that. I'm sure it will be. One thing that was interesting that he mentioned is the West games are generally outperforming the East games, which I feel like
Hmm.
is the opposite of the US. Certainly in college, the East games outperform, but even in the NFL, I think most of the East Coast teams probably perform better than the West Coast teams.
Yeah,
Um,
and it helps. That's where a majority of them are too.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
So
when
I'm
you look at I don't know. I obviously I'm not going to pretend here to know Canadian population and that kind of stuff. But yesterday I finally looked up the map of where each team actually is like located in Canada, and they're all right along on that eastern side. That it seems like they're all pretty close together. So you would
yeah.
imagine that if those are larger populations, that it would be a little bit more popular. But maybe the scarcity of the West Coast is what brings the popularity. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, and like I know people mention like Saskatchewan, they're like for the whole province, not for a city. Like Toronto's obviously just a city. The whole province roots for Saskatchewan.
Yeah,
So maybe there's something to that. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting, and like I said, obviously the opposite of the U.S. Um, he talked a lot about, I guess there's a scoring's up. There's been a huge growth in digital media. Shout out us and all the other
obviously.
podcasts. TV viewership's up, revenue's up, attendance is up. Seems like the CFL's kind of popping off. It's getting there. And I read an article that their deal with TSN and CBS Sports Network is up in 26. So I'm hoping
Okay.
after that they find a way to get more games on US TV
Right.
because CFL Plus is great. I love that we have access to that. I would really love to see more games on TV. I think it would really help grow the game. I
Certainly.
think I think US fans would watch it. Again, we got to
I
get
real
the
I Yeah, we kind of we texted about this before Tuesday. We talked about this kind of Sunday night and into Monday, about how uh, there's room to grow the American audience, and I think you get past kind of like the stigma. And that's probably a rude word for the CFL, because I don't want it to come off like I don't love it, because I do, but trying to get it in front of American eyes, and just letting them get a chance like I gave it a chance, I think it would be awesome and would definitely help grow. Obviously there's been the US expansion in the past, and that's something I want to do more research on here in the off season and that kind of stuff. And now they're back down to 9 teams. I'd love to see a 10th. We've talked about that, 10, 11, maybe 12. But yeah, I think just trying to get Americans to a larger market, because the CFL's tried to do it before, and like I said, not fully up to date on the history of that, but it seems like there's at least at one point a market for it. So I mean, I love CFL Plus. Being able to watch and have that being free so that you can watch every game is awesome, and I think they got to keep it that way. Because when you're trying to grow the league, I think putting a cap on that in a financial sense would be detrimental. Obviously the play on the field, like we've said, and the rules, it's a little bit confusing, but it's extremely fun. So we kind of talked about that. Like I said, just wanted to bring it up because we love this league, and I think getting more Americans to give it a chance, I think you would see a real uptick.
Yeah. And I know you just talked about expansion. The one thing when I was reading these articles that I did see is a lot of people think Ambrosie's going to stay until they get that new TV deal in 26. And they're saying, again, I don't know how true this is. These were just in the articles that I were reading about it, that Ambrosie, I guess, is pro expansion, and that they're saying expanding to 10 would really help a future TV deal in 26. So they think he's
Yes.
going to try to push for another expansion team at least before he leaves in 26 is what they think is going to happen. I obviously don't know any details on that, and these are just rumors at this point. But that's what people are starting to talk, and that's what they're saying.
Look, I feel like for you Sesame Street fans in the crowd, the meme with Elmo and the fire in the background, that's how I feel right now. Just like, yes.
Yeah, it's great. And yeah, just you mentioned like financial stuff. So one thing I thought was interesting, they're supposed to share their financials with the CFLPA, which by the way, found out they have a CFLPA. So they're supposed to share their financials. They haven't even shared last year's financials yet, which is weird to me. Again, so my day job, I'm actually an accountant. I'm an auditor, so I would love to get a look at these like that seems like right
Yeah.
up my wheelhouse. If I can find a way to get a look at these financial statements, that would make my day. That's all I do during work. I would really love to look at the CFL's financials, to be quite honest with you.
My
But
guess would be, as a layman, my guess would be that if everything is up, they don't want to show their hand if there's any like upcoming negotiations.
yeah.
That would be my first guess as to why those things probably haven't been shared. But
Yeah, I'd love to get a look at them and see what kind of position they're in for an expansion. I know there was talk. They do a revenue sharing among the teams. It's kind of like MLS over here. Well, I guess there's MLS in Canada too. But they do revenue sharing amongst their owners as well. So that'd be something they'd have to look into with an expansion team. So I'd love to look at the numbers and see where they're at revenue wise, if that's something they can even afford. Which, if they're saying revenue's up, I'm sure they could afford it. I would just like to see the numbers, just for me.
awesome. Anything else?
Not from the commissioner stuff. That was pretty much everything I got from that.
Awesome. Well, I think this has been a great episode. One thing I will say when it excuse me, when it comes to the revenue side of things, I'm looking at gear, obviously for the Stampeders, and it seems like each team is kind of allowed to do their own thing with their gear, as most teams are. There's not really any uniformity behind it. I know I've gone as deep as Fanatics Canada, and there wasn't a lot of offerings there. So if there's one thing that a very small startup CFL podcast host like yourself, like myself, I guess can ask, is that we figure it out a little bit with the gear, because between like eBay, I looked, there's like only people are selling like old cards, which I love cards, don't get me wrong, it's great, but I want shirts. Like I announced my my fandom as a Stampeder. I'm not going to go back on that 4 weeks in or so. But that being said, I find myself gravitating towards the entire league. So having a little bit of gear from here, having a little bit of gear from there is not something I'm opposed to as a fan of the league as a whole. And it seems like it's a little bit difficult, and there's not a lot of offerings. So if we could figure that out, that's my only real request at this point.
Yeah, that would help. I'm trying to find Saskatchewan beanies. I wear beanies all the time. I don't know what you guys call them over there. I know people in West Virginia call them toboggans. I don't know what Canadians call them. But if I could find a beanie or even like a baseball hat to wear during the summer, because I wear hats all the time, I would really appreciate somewhere that makes it easy to find that stuff. I know there's some on the Saskatchewan website. I don't know if there's, again, like you said, over here we use Fanatics or NFL Shop, NHL Shop, all those. I don't know, is there an equivalent for the CFL that we can use?
Yeah, I'm also not opposed. Because I saw on eBay there's like a 1960s bobblehead somebody's selling of this Stampeders bobblehead for like $330, which
Wow.
I'm a public high school educated American, which means not very smart over here. so with that in mind, I'm always open to if somebody has some extra gear, I will pay. I won't pay a lot. So if it's like a shirt or two, I'll pay you appropriately, market value, I guess. That might have put me in a financial pickle, but so I need something to decorate these walls here and my walls at work. So yeah, if you're a listener and you're like, God, I got too much BC gear, need to get rid of a couple of these shirts, or maybe you lost a couple pounds and now your shirts are too big. I'm about a large, so there you go.
If you have any really big shirts, you can contact me. I'll take that. But I'm a little bigger. I do have an open wall space over here for a Saskatchewan flag. If anybody can track me down one of those,
Love it.
yeah,
This is not this is not an ask. It's more of a plea at this point. We're
yeah,
begging.
begging, yeah.
All right, Ant. Well, we got go Owls this week. Go our friend Caleb Evans. Yeah, it's the Great Cup, folks. We're just excited to be here. Thank you for bringing us along on this amazing ride. We're so excited. We have not talked one bit about the podcast and what happens in the off season. So stay tuned. Follow us on X. Follow the podcast on X. And what's that handle?
Football_A_pod.
A is in EH. Thank you, everybody, so much. Enjoy the Grey Cup. We will for sure be doing one next week because obviously we have to talk about the results of the Grey Cup. But after that, we'll decide by then. But
Yeah.
This podcast is in good hands, and we thank you, everybody, so much.
Go Owls.
Go Owls.